So the music's fading out at this point. We're still getting our groove here. It's Cody, and we got Jake here. And Jake, say hi.
Hey, world.
We spoke with Colin Jeffery. Colin's he's kind of a juggernaut. I really didn't know. I always want to feel like I belong in the room when I'm talking to these people, but he's kind of a hoss. He's been in meetings that I don't know exist. To get everybody on board with Colin's caliber, I'm just going to read off some credentials here. He became responsible for the creative output of both agencies, Donor and Wolfgang. Colin was included on Adweek's 2016 Creative Top 100 list, and Donor was named an Ad Age A-list standout agency. In 2012 and 2016, Business Insider included Colin on its list of most creative people in advertising, ranking him 11 and 20 respectively. Prior to Colin co-founding Wolfgang, which I'm pretty sure is based in LA, Colin was a managing partner and chief creative officer at David and Goliath. Not sure if you've heard of that one. That's another big one, Jake. Under Colin's leadership, the agency grew from 60 to 250 employees and was named Ad Age Small Agency of the Year. He's worked with Adidas, NBC, Panda Express, Kia, Jack in the Box, Coca-Cola, Universal. Colin's list is, he's got a lot of experience. So I really tried in the discussion to get what I could out of him, but I think in retrospect, I don't even know what to ask in that situation, but I did try. Because the goal here, to remind everybody, is to get the Collins to talk to us in ways that can inform us how to work better with them, how to get their attention, how to stay in the limelight with them, how to stay in their good favor, their good graces. So that's something that I keep trying to go for with these, but I'm going to give a brief thing of something that I thought stood out. Did anything stick out to you on this one?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is it's cool to hear someone with such an impressive array of work kind of go back to what he feels is like the most valuable, which is real, human, authentic work. I feel like that came up a lot just in the context of the world we live in and the tools available for us and the AI being on the rise with some exciting, very exciting things. He says really what's most valuable is that originality, that unique voice, that human element. And he brought up some cool examples, including John Batiste and some work they did with him, which I'm a big fan of. So yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind for me, just on a philosophical level. I feel like he had some really cool things to say.
Yeah, it does kind of hit differently, and I don't mean to sound mean, but people who are not in his position are saying that stuff about AI right now. It's like, there's going to be a renaissance. People are going to want human stuff. And I think I agree, but to hear Colin saying it at his level, to know that he's also thinking that way, it is affirming. It's pretty interesting. I know.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you caught this part, but when I was asking him about directors, he said, as far as something tangible, that's a takeaway. He said, yeah, when I go to your website, directors, and I want to see something, and I'm going to paraphrase here because I think it took a little interpreting. He said, I'll go to directors' pages and I'll only see 2 or 3 videos. And I'm trying to see what you're capable of so that I know if I can hire you or not. And I think something that he's saying is a lot of times, and maybe we've been guilty of this in the past, we just put our best foot forward. But if we think our comedy's outdated because it was shot in 2014 or something, well, maybe that's what he needs to see. And maybe we're getting passed up on the job anyway, if it's not on there. So if you've only got that Alexa 35, high power footage on there because you think it's the best, then someone like a Colin who is looking for you, he needs to see maybe a more range or broad spectrum of your body of work so that he knows if he can hire you or not. That stood out to me as something tangible that we can take away from, because I think I've seen other people doing that too, because we're all excited to show that the better footage, kind of like what we found out with the Phil episode prior. If they haven't seen that you can do it, you're not getting the job because they can't afford that risk. So talking to Colin after talking to Phil, it was kind of like 2 sides of the same coin. I was like, okay, I'm seeing the same theme coming up here.
Nice.
Yeah. Talking a lot.
No, it's great stuff.
Were you able to catch anything for us tech-wise? Are you liking anything right now?
Yeah, I've got a recommendation out there for anyone in post. Our senior editor, head of post, Juan, showed me this, but it's a website called editingtools.io. Great tools there. There's a lot of amazing time-saving things. You can generate slates super easily for videos. You can have watermark generators where you can customize it, instantly download, throw them on a video if you need it. A lot of other great tools, even some AI tools and some plugins for your NLE like Premiere or Resolve. So there's more to it than what I'm saying, but just you will not be disappointed. Editingtools.io if you're in post, and you will love it if you don't use it already.
I'm looking at it right now. It looks like they are compatible with all the big players. I mean, I see Avid, DaVinci, Final Cut.
Yes, indeed.
So this is compatible with everybody.
Yeah, just a great resource out there for anyone who uses these softwares. So yeah.
Oh, cool, man. On that note, music fades in. We're gonna start the show with Colin. We don't have a sign off. No rules, no structure, Jake.
All right, goodbye everyone. Until next time, enjoy.
A garden of pure ideology.
Yeah, just your typical Super Bowl car ad.
Or a hilarious beer ad.
Break was over 15 minutes ago, Mitch!
I think you're the best ever.
Look down, back up. Where are you?
You're in the bush.
Well, how am I supposed to do? I've never been there.
I don't always drink beer, but when I do.
Wanna play Bobby?
I think we're going to be here a while.
I would love for you to tell everybody an overview of what you're doing right now.
All right. So, Colin Jeffery. I'm the Chief Creative Officer at Donor and also a co-founder and Chief Creative Officer of Wolfgang.
Nice. That is a gross summarization of your long, long list of responsibilities from what I saw. But that is the title, technically, yeah. So you do a lot, which is why I wanted to talk to you. So I do want to give you some context. I know you've spoken to some people before, but it's funny to say our listeners because I don't even feel like a radio host or anything. But we do have listeners, and they are mostly filmmakers. They're directors, DPs, production company owners, people starting out, writers, so that you know who you're talking to with this discussion. I wanted to talk to you because I saw that you're a strategist in a lot of ways in your past experience. I saw a lot of talk about strategy. So I'd love to just come right out and say, let it rip. You know, if it's harsh, if it's not mean, because I'm begging you to be mean, basically. If there is anything that is brutal or something that you just genuinely, the way that you see it, we would love to hear it. That is from the perspective, I mean, we can speak to anybody because we have other listeners too, but it is the filmmakers who are excited to hear from you because it's people who, they want to know what makes someone like you look their way. They want to know how to get on your radar. They want to know how to stay on your radar. So I'm going to touch on a few things here, but I just wanted to try to give you the support to really not only know who's listening, but to really you don't have to beat around the bush with them because they'd love to hear it because you're potentially saving people years and years of effort in the wrong direction. And as I said, you have a long, long list of accolades that we're going to list in our show notes and links to your websites. That said, I'd like to start out with an icebreaker just to make sure we're comfortable. So
all right,
and we can save them for later if you like. It's probably the only show kooky thing that we do here, but I got 3 for you. What's your favorite commercial that's not yours?
Of all time or
all time?
Recently? All time, I would have to say there's 2 really. I feel like I love the Sony Balls commercial for what it was at the time. You know, I just love the idea of bringing pixels to life in such a simple and beautiful way. I did learn years later that it was actually borrowed from David Letterman's skit that was done in the 80s, where they used the exact same street with bouncy balls. So I didn't love it as much as I used to, but I do remember just the soundtrack, the way it was shot, kind of the bravery of the client to not show the product and just lean into the idea of bringing the balls to life, the pixels to life. I've always been a huge fan of that. And, you know, I love a lot of the early PlayStation work, you know, Frank Budgeon, the Pyramid, Get on Board. Again, just the music, the film, back then actually shooting on film and the scale and just kind of, I think back then there was a magic and a wonder to the work. Like I look forward to seeing the next big thing coming from a brand like PlayStation back in the day. I mean, those are two. I'm a sucker for big scale and I like epic stuff. That's kind of my thing.
You're in good company. I'm stapling my lips shut because people want to hear from you, not me. But we love video game commercials around here, and especially the epicness of them. I've probably said 4 or 5 times now. My favorite is did you ever see the Halo ODST commercial from 2008?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, amazing.
That to me, that was one of those moments where I was staring at the TV just thinking, like, what? Commercials are cool? This is insane. And I still think it's amazing.
No, you're right. I mean, the production value, the scale of something like that was just, there was a magic to it, right? And I think, again, there's ethereal, the music and the build and the quality of the effects, and just a perfect piece of film.
Yeah, and that was 2008, and that's better than some movies that come out today. So, all right, next icebreaker for you. What's your favorite commercial that is yours?
That is mine. I mean, I have a lot, man.
You do?
I feel like the thing I'm most proud of is the Kia Hamsters campaign in its entirety. And there's work that I've done, I think, previous and after that. But the hamsters were, was this kind of moment in time where when I joined David and Goliath and worked with David Angelo, and the idea was like, hey, can you come and help me build this small boutique agency around this little Korean car brand? This is early 2006, must have been 2007. And, at the time, the Kias were, there was a few models on the roads. They were new to the US market, and they had horrible reliability, right? They were like literally catching on fire on freeways and blowing up, and there were all sorts of horror stories.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, when it was early days, it was a young brand, right? And for us, when we introduced the Kia Soul, which was their boxy car, and it's literally called the boxy car category that it sits in. When we launched the Kia Soul with the hamsters, it was this amazing moment in Kia's history because they needed at the time to take a big swing, right? They were the underdog, they were the new player, and they were trying to go head to head with, at the time, you probably remember the Scion XB, the kind of boxy car that Scion had out. There was a Nissan Cube. Honda had the Element, which was also hugely popular. But we couldn't go and play the same game as them, and they were leaning heavily into graffiti and underground parties and, like really trying to be cool. And we didn't have permission to do that, or didn't want to. We didn't have the budget to go toe to toe with the big the big brands, playing that same game. So we introduced the hamsters, and that campaign was hugely successful for the brand. In many ways, it helped them grow from the 28th to the 7th largest automotive brand in 6 years, and it was a big reason for that. It helped us kind of define the tone of the brand. It was youthful, it was fun, it was optimistic. And, just going into a boardroom with the senior Korean management with a stuffed hamster and a hamster wheel to try and explain to them the idea. The initial one was just hamsters stuck in a hamster wheel, kind of a metaphor for us being stuck in the daily grind, the routine. And then the cool hamsters drive in a Kia Soul and show them a new way to roll. But even just the approach of selling that through to this very kind of serious, intimidating Korean senior management was amazing. And they bought into it. They understood they needed to take a risk. And for the next 10 years, we had giant hamsters with no pants on, sometimes pants on, caps on, driving cars. And in every year, we just took them on a different adventure, right? And it was always positive, and there was a conceptual idea behind it. But it was fun, and it didn't take itself too seriously, and it did wonders for the brand.
I'm curious, so that people can get more of a feel for what that experience was like for you. Where were those pitch meetings held?
So they were down here in California in Irvine at Kia's headquarters. And just to paint a picture, President On, who we dealt with, who ran the North American and Kia business at the time, he had this huge boardroom that was essentially dedicated to him. It like the only meetings ever held in this giant boardroom
Were his meetings.
were his meetings, and he sat at the head, and everyone flanked him down. But the table
Wow.
was,
What a power
like
move.
the size of it was like the size of a tennis court, so you'd be off to the side, not quite, but it felt that way, right? He'd sit at the head, and then there was me and the team with some boards and a stuffed hamster and a hamster wheel, just doing a little demonstration on his table.
It probably feels kind of funny walking into a serious building with those props, I would assume.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I was like,
were they out? Were they exposed like when you walked into the building, or did you have a box to kind of not let
I had
people
them in
see?
a box.
Okay.
I had them in a box. I pulled the box out, started to put the little hamster in the wheel, spin it around in front of him and all these other execs. And I was like, this is either going to be the end of my career with these guys, or it's gonna go well, right? So
I would watch this commercial. Oh man, that's cool. No, I appreciate you sharing that. I want to come back to car stuff in a bit, but to reemphasize what I said, you are at this point in your career. I mean, you're known as a strategist, right? Because that's what your company. It was Wolfgang that was acquired recently. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not a strategist by trade. My background is art direction and design.
Okay.
We did when we launched Wolfgang. So I had two founding partners. So Seema Miller, who is a strategist, so she led our strategy practice, and then Mike Geiger, who is my other partner. Mike's background is more in digital production, which was another piece of our business. So Seema really ran the Wolfgang consulting component, which was more of an upstream approach, right? So we launched part consultancy, part agency, and part production company. But so Seema really, and I do consider myself strategic, and I think any creative that's good at what they do needs to be strategic, right? I mean, it's at this point it's the same thing. I feel like creative and strategy, there's a massive overlap, and you need to be able to do both, to be successful in our game. But really, on title-wise, Seema ran strategy, I ran creative, or run creative, and Mike runs.
Yeah.
Mike's title now, he's actually the CEO, but he has a production background, which helps because we do have a big production piece to the company.
Part of the reason I was bringing up your experience with that is because I am going to keep, I do want to keep digging just for your transparent opinions. But I would love to know what maybe was really important 5-10 years ago that you were supposed to be doing, that was working, that is being affected now by the way things are changing. I guess I'm curious to know, as much as you can share, what you guys are thinking right now about where you want to go, how to stand out, how to aim, not where the target is right now, but where it's going to be, where you think it's going to be. And I know that's vague, but that's because I kind of want it to be, because I'd like to hear anything from you. There's no wrong answer, really. Just kind of like to hear if we could be a fly on the wall for a discussion, or as much as that as you're willing to share, what's just something that you guys are thinking right now is a direction that you think you should start leaning in to keep the lights on and keep all of your employees and just stay in the game and stay competitive?
It's interesting just doing this as long as I have. You've seen things, as you say, change, right, over time. And 20 years ago, there was so much emphasis put on craft, right? And you would craft every single piece that you made, hand-ticking type and crafting kerning and color and grades and edits, and you put so much emphasis on the craft, right? And more recently, the industry, I think we can say that what we do is become more disposable. I think it's like an open conversation we have now. Things aren't made to last. They're pieces of advertising content. They're topical 1 second and they're outdated the next. And that's just kind of the world we live in, right? And I think with digital cameras and makers cultures and everyone can make stuff. So this idea of craft kind of went away. And I'm not even sure that the younger generations spend time in college really focusing on craft and color theory and the history of the industry and typographers. And, I don't think that stuff happens. And it may not be necessary, but I feel like we've lost that sense of craft in what we do. I think budgets, timelines, all of that stuff plays into this, right? And moving forward, we now have access to all these tools and we can make stuff quicker. I feel like, and this is good for your listeners, and I feel like the idea of strong storytelling is something that's going to make a resurgence. Like this idea of we've lent into more recently into execution. You know, like the fact that we have tools and everyone can make things and we make things quicker, and we pulled back on the craft and we lent into just making stuff, get it out as an industry, right? I'm talking at large here, just generalization. And I feel like there will be this resurgence of true storytelling, crafted, thought through storytelling in different formats, right? It could be long form, medium form, short form, but the idea of like, what's the core idea, and really telling a beautiful story, well crafted, I think will make a comeback, right? We have the tools, and there's only so much you can do with AI and, you know, generative tools that we have access to now. But at the end of the day, like if we can all make stuff, what sets your piece of content and mine apart is the message, right, that it's conveying and how it connects with me on a human level. So I feel like storytelling will be strong in the future. We'll have, you know, will be something we see more of moving forward.
I don't mean to ride your coattails, but I've kind of been thinking the same thing. Guess I'm going to break my own rule here, but there's one that I've kept kind of close to the chest, and it's something that I believe to be true that some people don't like hearing, and it's the law of rare and valuable. And the second something is no longer rare, it's no longer valuable. And some people might not like that because they don't want to feel devalued, but it might be brutal, but it's just what it is. And no matter how hard we work on something, if a lot of people are doing, you know, I've just spent the last year, 18 months probably, knocking out a feature film. And we're excited about it, but there's been several times where we've had to look at it and go, okay, what's the ROI on what we're putting in here? Because there's a lot of people making feature films now, and we just have to think about what the return on that's going to be, because we want to put into a lot of the craft. And what we're hoping is that that craft gets recognized and maybe kind of stands the test of time a little bit. But also, you said a lot of stuff that we've kind of been pondering on our end as well. So it's really, really validating. I think people might not know what to do with that, though, because it's also what you're saying is the story, and the authenticity of that story is probably going to be what makes it stands out. But maybe that means they dial back their effects because they're thinking, oh, we just got to get this out because it's a good story. Yeah, I don't know. That's not really a question, so I don't know how you'd engage with that, but please do.
No, it's super interesting. So we learned a really hard lesson recently with AI, and it's an invaluable lesson. It was, we lost a lot of time on a project because of it, and I feel like it's in its infancy, and we're all learning how to work with generative AI, right? Mm-hmm. So we recently, a year ago, we started working with John Batiste, the musician. We started working on the material for his new album, World Music Radio. So I've known John for 5 or 6 years. We became friendly, and he'd asked, hey, can you help us with the development of the new album? So look and feel, kind of a visual narrative. We actually got really involved in just helping even how to structure the album and the narrative of, we created this alter ego with John, Billy Bob Bo Bob, that kind of walks you through the music. And the inspiration behind the music, World Music Radio, was John had this kind of feeling of being pigeonholed or stereotyped as a musician. He obviously has a jazz background, comes from a very well-known jazz family in New Orleans, but he was always seen as the jazz guy. And he's like, I have so much more to give, and I'm more than just a jazz musician. And so he kind of got infatuated with the term world music, which is meant to be inclusive, but is actually very marginalizing. World music is a term that's just used to describe music that's not from the US or parts of Europe. So they kind of, it actually alienates a bunch of folk, or puts the rest of the world in a little box, versus in being an inclusive term. So the album was really meant to start a discussion, a debate around the term world music, to make it feel a little more inclusive of all sounds. And then the album itself, which was beautiful, where he really just took every track is a different genre and inspired by different sounds from around the world. It's this beautiful tapestry of music, and he has all these different artists that he collaborates with from around the world. So the actual album itself, the music, is very global. So we started to develop the visual language to complement this, in terms of the album artwork, the booklets, the visualizers, the music videos, all the other pieces. And AI Midjourney had just kind of become the thing, right? So we go down this Midjourney, rabbit hole, and we have all these designers, and it was a beautiful project because we pulled in a team from Dona and Wolfgang, and we had all these top folk working together to solve this thing. Anyway, and we even brought in top prompters, Midjourney folk that we found on the web and brought them in, and we're paying them freelance to kind of figure out some of this stuff. Anyway, so a month or two goes by, and we've got this beautiful world that we've created using AI, and it suddenly occurred to us that it lacked a human touch. John, the music was so real and honest and human and global, and we created a world that at face value looked like, it's pulling from different cultures and flags and fabrics and patterns from all around the world, but it had a sheen and a fake, it had like a computer generated vibe to it, which is the antithesis of what we were trying to do. So we suddenly were like, shit, we've gone down this path, we're in the wrong place. So we scrapped all of it. We literally threw it all out, started again, and did it all by hand. I mean, literally by hand, just collaging, hand-ticking type, crafting things. We shot a lot of the videos on Super 8 and old kind of handheld cameras. And we went the complete other way. And now, if you look at it, it has this very raw, honest, human feel to it. And it was just a lesson. We learned there's a time and a place to use the tools, and there's a time to rely on our craft and what we've grown up and what we know as filmmakers and artists and whatever. So anyway, it's so interesting because we almost all the projects we're doing now, we have two big productions in the works here. As I said, Wolfgang has a big production component to the model, and we're also heading out actually Saturday to do a big shoot. And almost every job we're doing now, we have old film cameras with us, and we're shooting stuff on film, Super 8, 16, but we're just taking them with us, and we've got old Polaroid cameras, and we're just taking all the toys, and a lot of it ends up in the work, and I feel like you're feeling it, right? There's kind of this, I don't know, it is in the zeitgeist a little, maybe we have this kind of urge for real and honest and that human touch, which
again, because like I said, who's listening? There's a lot of mystery to, like I said, we're selfishly biased from the filmmaker side of things. If you haven't arrived yet, or if you're not in LA, if you're not at one of the big production companies, I don't know, Caviar, Biscuit, Anonymous Content, something like that, and you're not in regular meetings with you guys, there's a lot of mystery around it. Could you tell me maybe a little bit about what your weekly life looks like in relation to commercials, whether they're live action or not? I think some people would love to hear what it's like for you so that they can better appreciate. I know that's super vague, but I'm trying to hone in on that because we want to appreciate what it is that you're doing so that we better know how to support that and how to truthfully, to jump right to the end on this, filmmakers want to know how to get a job from you. So it ultimately all will kind of come back to saying, how do I stand out? How do I get noticed? How do I earn their respect? How do I get on their radar? How do I stay on their radar? So if a lot of the questions sound like some version of that, they kind of are, because that's people want to hear what you like, and kind of like I said with that Target thing, where they need to, because it takes so long to acquire the skills necessary to work with you at your level.
Yeah.
They probably don't want to waste years doing the wrong thing. Like maybe somebody yesterday thinks AI prompting is important. Well, look at the discussion we just had. Maybe they want to get better at film because they're going, you know what? Film's coming back. I'm going to get good at that. So anything you have, like, I'd love to hear what the biggest thing of your week looks like. Even though you have a lot of important things to do, I'd love to hear what that one meeting looks like that you kind of have to dread or prepare for, or just your life on a weekly basis with your work.
Yeah, I mean, so the first part of that, I mean, getting into agencies and getting on the radar of EPs and creatives who are making these calls on the agency side, it's tough, man. It really is, right? And I think for us, almost the same as getting in with clients, getting on the radar of the CMO. It's you're trying to just get the attention of the folk that are ultimately making decisions that affect you, right? As a creative filmmaker, whatever it may be. Creatives, for the most part, there's so much pressure now on the creative process, right? When we get briefed, you make the work, you sell the work, the idea to the client. That's there's typically rounds of revisions and approvals. Things get tested, and then you have the idea that now we got to go make it, right? As a campaign or piece of film. What often happens is you have people that you form relationships with, right? Whether it's a director or it's a DP or an editor or whoever it may be. And one of the traps we fall into is going back to not a trap. There's a comfort, right? There's a comfort level. If I've had multiple good experiences with a certain director, it's easy and it's comfortable to go back to someone I know because we have rapport, we know how they roll, whether it's somebody that obviously specializes in comedy or scale or whatever it may be, right? Same with editorial. I think you also become quite friendly with DPs and their crew on set because you're around camera if you're a lead creative on one of these jobs. So I think there's an opportunity there to actually create a relationship. And you do tend to, if you're producing a lot of work as an agency creative, you do tend to see a lot of the same people on sets, right? So that part, it's hard to break it. It's hard to break in. And I feel like for a lot of bigger jobs, obviously we're doing triple bids, right? Meaning that we have our approved script or scripts or campaign or whatever we're making. We go out and we look for production companies and directors that we think would be well suited to this specific piece of work. And then we have to get triple bids, meaning we have to get treatments and bids from typically 3 different production companies and directors. So that requires doing a bid, writing a treatment, which is obviously time consuming. Then those are presented to the agency. We then look through those. There's decisions made on which is the best treatment, who's got the best vision to bring it to life. And then obviously it's a bid. So there's a financial component to it as well, right? So part of the job is based on who's got the most competitive bid. It's not solely done on one or the other. And these are usually done through procurement, right? So through procurement division in a client. So they look at the numbers. We look at the creative, obviously, and we'll have a recommendation. But that's how it typically goes down. And then someone's obviously selected. So even that's a tough process, right? You go from lots to 3 to 1 getting selected. And then obviously there's 2 production companies and 2 directors who've put the time into writing treatments who then don't get the job.
Because we do it too. We spend a lot of time lost to building the treatments and the bids for jobs that sometimes we do get, sometimes we don't.
And sometimes, depending on what the job is, it's exciting to work with somebody new, right? So you get a treatment from maybe a director you don't know, or that's maybe that you haven't heard of from a smaller production company, and you're like, shit, let's take a chance on this person. Maybe they're a newcomer, and that happens a lot. Where I think there's definitely times where we're looking for new ideas and the new talent out there, and give those people the shot, right?
Right. But I mean, as obviously silly for me to tell you, there's a lot of money on the line, and it's the same way we, even on a smaller level than you, we sometimes have to pry a DP away from a director, to try somebody else because of the same reasons. When there's a lot of money on the line, exactly. you need the horse you can trust. Yeah.
I will say, with the way the industry's gone with much more social content, I do think for newcomers, there's a lot of these smaller production companies that just come in and are willing to work with smaller budgets, be super resourceful. We work with a bunch of these outfits where they'll come in and it's all handheld and suction cup mounts and multiple cameras and drones, and we just shoot the shit out of it and we go for it. And I feel like that works. At some point, that crew, if they know what they're doing and they're getting a lot of work, they then want to get, they want to get elevated, they want to get paid, they want to move up, right? Which makes total sense. But for a moment, there's there is a way in where all of us are looking for that type of work. Like every client we have obviously wants quick, more affordable, more content, more
Yeah.
assets. So I feel like if people are willing to do that and they have the talent and they have all the toys, there's always going to be a way in making more of that kind of, more affordable social content.
To tie it back into something I was asking about earlier, which way you think the wind is blowing. Obviously, things are economically, if you're a data or numbers person, you can tell things are strained at this point. Is that something you guys are talking about with how you approach your work? Because maybe clients are tightening their purse strings a little bit. Maybe they're taking less risks or trying less things, or are you guys being more aggressive? Or are you talking about it at all? Is it not a concern at your level, or is it business as usual? Just curious to know if you're seeing a shift in how maybe some of your, or just any of the bigger, larger businesses are doing business.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely feeling it, right? And we all talk about it. I think every client and every agency at this point, I think, is trying to be smarter with budgets and, you're obviously seeing fewer big extravaganzas, the big, multi-million dollar extravaganza type thing. Super Bowl obviously is its own beast. But outside of that, I definitely think you've got brands expecting agencies to be more resourceful and find smarter, simpler ways to get things done. So yeah, we're definitely seeing that. It's a real thing. And then you've got some brands that want to make a splash and stand out. I just saw a Coinbase ad last night that was big, just big, like Coinbase making a statement.
Really?
And I feel like those, you see it around Super Bowl as well, where you've got these new modern brands that want to stand out and make a statement and just throw some money at it, right? So you do see that. But for the most part, I feel like we're all having to rethink the way we work and the way we produce things. And yeah, it's definitely a thing.
We'd love to know, on that note, what your creative process looks like with your team. You being the chief, you are the chief creative officer, correct? Yeah.
Yep.
'Cause I know you're two. I don't know if your responsibilities differ between the two companies sometimes.
No, not really.
Okay.
They don't. With Donor is a big shop, been around a long time, 85 years, headquartered in Detroit, offices all over the country, in Canada. And it's got a really strong senior creative leadership. There's a lot of ECDs who kind of work and manage their own groups and do an amazing job at that. I think both agencies have a very distinctive proposition, and they have a way of kind of working, right? So Donor is all about modern and Main Street. We operate at the intersection of modern and Main Street. And the idea there being helping Main Street brands compete in a modern marketplace and helping modern brands connect with everyday Americans, right? So that's kind of the philosophy behind the brand. And we have a really nice wide range of clients. Some Main Street brands that have been with the agency for a long, long time, and then some modern brands that are modern brands that are trying to connect with a broader American audience. And in those, like the creative leadership really do their own thing, right? They all manage their own brands. And for me coming in, and I've only been on board at Donor for now a year and a half, but coming in, when I first met with David DeMuth, who's the CEO, the idea of like, hey, we're doing great work. We have these brands. A lot of them have been with us a long time. Let's make 2023, 2024 really the year of the work. Let's look at elevating the work, take it to another level, right? Just kind of push ourselves. So that's really been a big part of my job at Donor, has been working with all the creative leadership, the strategy leads, the account leads, to be like, hey, how do we take where we are and the work we're doing across these modern and Main Street brands, and how do we take the work up a notch, keep pushing it, doing work that's more buzzworthy, more press worthy, more award worthy, getting bigger results, for our clients on different levels. So a lot of it is in meetings, looking at work, reviewing the work. I tend to review the work at this point with the senior creative leadership. I don't spend as much time with the teams, the working teams, reviewing work on that side. It's more just up top. But it's really been about pushing the agency to do even better work across the board.
So you communicate with I guess I could just say the team leaders, who then take those assignments down to the creative teams, and then they work and then come back to you with what they're working on?
Yeah, for the most part. So the way it's structured, you have a chief creative officer, and then typically you have an ECD or ECDs, executive creative directors, group creative directors, ACDs, associate creative directors. You know, the kind of
the big
structure.
pyramid.
Yeah, and my day-to-day, I will get a little more in the weeds in certain things. So, for example, if we have a big pitch or there's a very big, important project, I will jump in and be more hands-on working with the teams. But as I say, I've been lucky enough to inherit a model and a creative department that works well. Like, it's well-oiled, people take care of their business, and the idea of just coming in and like, hey, make us better creatively, like help elevate the work, push us, inspire us to do more. So some of it's almost been just almost reminding people of what we do, like you need to, like, I love what we do, right? I love making stuff. And I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in the meetings and the presentations and the revisions, and you kind of forget what we do, and why we do it. So I think just some of it's been hitting the brakes and almost celebrating the work around us, like just reminding ourselves like all this cool work that's happening in different agencies and different parts of the world, and almost like just reminding ourselves of what's out there and what we're capable of. And it's been an amazing year, man. We've done a ton of award-winning work. The shop is,
I didn't even know how to address awards, because you have awards from everybody, all the big ones that everyone wants. You guys seem to go there.
Yeah, and it's been, and to me, it's contagious. It's contagious in a way, right? If you have a winning culture and it works across different brands, and I feel like in a way, the industry, you can look at certain brands that win consistently, right? And you're like, oh shit, I'm not at that shop, I'm not on that brand. But you can also create your destiny. Like, you can create great work out of nothing. You just kind of need clients that are open-minded and want to do work that's brave and, maybe a little different. And then you need to put the time into doing it. You got to sell it, make them believe, bring it to life. It requires a little bit of just pushing. You got to go for it, right? And once you're going and you've got press and notoriety and your clients are on stage and picking up awards or in the press, obviously you need the sales as well, right? We can't forget about it. At the end of the day, that's what our job is, effectiveness. Right. But this winning culture, and then people want more of it, and you get people who haven't necessarily been on a stage or done kind of work that's in the press, and then it just becomes a thing, right? So we have a little bit of that at the moment, which I love. It's amazing.
Sounds like a cool environment to be in. Do you go back and forth between Detroit a lot, or do you spend more time in one place than another?
No, absolutely. So we have an office in LA where I am now. So Donor and Wolfgang share an office in LA. And then we have, as I said, we headquartered, the Donor headquarters are in Detroit, Wolfgang headquarters in LA, but we have both. Wolfgang has a big studio up in Detroit. We have, I guess, maybe 18 edit bays, sound, color, all a studio up there. Nice. We do a lot of work up there and do a lot of work with Donor and some of our other sister companies. And then, so I'm back and forth between the two fairly regularly.
Have you ever been a part of the process of? Did you ever watch Mad Men?
I mean, I have watched it, not all of it, but I've dipped in and out. I'm
curious to know, because you actually have the experience. Have you ever been a part of the process of winning a car, as they would say on Mad Men, of getting a car company to become a client?
I've worked on car brands all over the world. I have pitched and won.
I know you have a lot. I guess pitching seems so cool. So I was just excited to hear about maybe any of that. Like, did you ever get to experience the rush of competing for a car, as they would have said on Mad Men? I think there was one iconic point where he was like, "Get me a car," because that was a big measurement to them. It was like, if you have a car, you have arrived. You are in. You're serious if you have a car. So
no, I've pitched car business along the way. As I said, I've been more I've just worked on car brands around the world. I think the only actual car that I've pitched and won would have been when I was at Saatchi in Singapore. We helped Saatchi pitch and win the 4x4 business in China, which was obviously a huge piece of business with them moving into the China market, and 4x4s being a big deal there. So we pitched and won that meeting with the Land Cruiser. But that was a huge kind of group effort between Saatchi Singapore, Saatchi Hong Kong. We flew in folk from everywhere. We worked out of the Hong Kong office we were back and forth there for a while. But other than that, I mean, I started working on BMW and Land Rover in South Africa. Then I worked on Toyota and Lexus in Singapore with Saatchi. Then I moved to the US to run Volkswagen at Arnold, and worked on that with Dave Wiest and Alan Puffenbach for 4 years on the old Drivers Wanted campaign, which was another just amazing time. And then obviously Kia. And then when you say we pitched and won one, when we started Wolfgang, we didn't have a car account, but we had all this collective car knowledge and experience. Mike and Seema had both worked on cars. We had this, I mean, our car portfolio we could have gone toe to toe with anybody. But as you learn with a small agency, you for a car brand, you need scale, right? They're looking 50 plus people, established company. So it's really hard to pry away a car brand from.
That's cool to know. I wouldn't have known that, because a lot of younger people might have thought, oh, I'm as talented as some of these people making these car spots. I can do it. I can get their attention. So it sounds like, doesn't matter how, quote, good you are, they need to trust a brand name before they get into bed with you.
Yeah, you need to be I mean, it's, obviously when you talk about big money, the car brands, there's a lot at stake. And I mean, Dona has Stellantis as one of their largest, if not the largest client, and has had for years, which is Jeep and Ram, Chrysler. We're doing work for Fiat and Alfa Romeo. But as I say, they've been around 85 years and have had Jeep for 20 plus years as a client. So there's a lot of automotive stuff going on there. And even that stuff we pitched and won. We've pitched and won work for Fiat and Alfa Romeo in Europe. And I think for us, that's a big win. It's, it's sexy and it's global and it's different. But we did during the pandemic, we didn't have a car brand on the Wolfgang side. And we had all this experience, and a lot of our friends who work in the automotive industry were kind of out of work, right? All the big OEMs and all the big car brands, they weren't really developing new product because everyone is in lockdown. So we got this group together, which was a wild project, and we almost pulled this off. So we created what was called the Thunder Truck, which we basically got.
I was going to ask about the Thunder Truck. This thing looks crazy.
So that's literally ready. It's engineered and ready to go. You could literally roll that off a production line tomorrow. So what we did is we got together with a bunch of our friends who are automotive engineers. I mean, some of these engineers, 3D modelers, designers, marketers. We did all this research on the category. And then we went to town developing this car that would literally destroy the Cybertruck, knowing that thing was going to be a shit show when it came out, which it's proven to be.
I didn't know if I should mention the comparisons between the two or not, but there are some obvious comparisons.
Yeah, it was very purposeful.
Yeah. Knowing, it was.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Although our version would kick the Cybertruck's ass all over the place. Anyway, it was designed that way. We brought in designers that were all working at all these amazing, it worked on all these amazing projects. And we had guys who were on the McLaren F1 engineering team. We had guys that worked on Lucid and Canoe and all these crazy, super credible folk. So it's fully engineered. I mean, it's literally designed, it could be rolled off a production line tomorrow. Anyway, so we actually talked to some different car brand companies, investment groups, whatever about it. And then the pandemic ended and we got back to real work.
Oh, is it not going to roll out?
Well, if someone listening's got a spare $1 billion to just get a new car company up and running, just let me know. And we got the design.
Is there anything that's kind of frustrating you about the ad industry right now, or commercials, or anything that you're seeing that you just regularly don't like, that maybe is coming up, or that you want to go away, or something that you'd like to see stop? I know that's kind of a heavy question too.
Yeah,
and I don't want to force you to speak negatively of anything if you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the stuff we touched on before, it's just the scrutiny being put on the production process. Just having to work with tighter budgets, tighter timelines, all that stuff, which I think is impacting everyone, right? Like listening, both the community, the film community, the ad industry at large. It's requiring us to rethink how we make stuff, and with that there comes a lot of frustration, right? Old school maybe. Like, I love craft, and I still care about it deeply, and I try to put as much as I can into the work, even though, as I said earlier, I think we've kind of come to this point where things have become a little more disposable, right? And that's how things are viewed by a lot of the procurement people. A lot of clients see things a little differently. I think if we had it our way, we just craft the hell out of everything, which doesn't make a ton of financial sense, just and time, with constraints on budget and time. So it does. I feel like that balance of how do we rewire ourselves, rethink how we make stuff, bothers me, and not bothers me like I'm not angry about it. It's just like, hey, we got to figure this stuff out, right? And then I think another thing that I've really struggled with is, the remote back to work thing. I think it's had a huge impact on the quality of thinking. I think when you just the quality of work that was put out into the world over the last 4 or 5 years, I think just in general hasn't been as good as it could have been. And I think it's largely due to the fact that we haven't been together.
It sounds like what you're saying is everyone going home to work remotely, which obviously, whatever, big nuanced discussion. Nobody's going to criticize us for talking about it. But it sounds like what you're saying is creativity went down because people were not together creating. Is that correct?
Yeah, you look, and obviously there's different schools of thought in this, right? And this is just my personal opinion that I think it's affected work. I think it's...
Well, we're talking about your industry too. We're not talking about somebody has like a perfect job that works perfectly from home, I think.
100%. I think the creative process benefits from having different creative minds in a room, working through problems, putting things on walls, pulling them down, discussions, debates. And it's funny being in LA, just talking to friends of mine who work in the entertainment side and the film and TV side, showrunners in particular, friends who run various shows here. And they had a very similar frustration about trying to run a writer's room remotely, which I think sounds also very tough to do, right? It's everyone's kind of stepping on each other on little, thumbnails on a Zoom screen, and nobody's really kind of building ideas as much. So I think you lose a lot of that. So that to me has been quite sad for creative in general. I think just not being together. There's been a little bit of resistance. I think here in LA, the problem has been it's such a big city, right? And it's expensive. So with the pandemic, a lot of people moved out of the city or further out to afford larger, apartments, homes, whatever it may be, right? And then when we're trying to encourage people to come back, even a few days a week, because again, just personally, I think it benefits the process. People are in cars for hours a day driving, and there's two schools of thoughts on that, right? Is it worth the commute? So it could be working at home. And I see both sides. It's just sad to me, the human, the interaction, and just being around each other is it's sad that we've lost a bit of that.
That's a great answer. I mean, I I asked the question, it's good for people to hear that stuff, because somebody listening, that, like I said at the beginning, it could change somebody's path, and they could go, you know what, I'm going to get an apartment across the street and show my value. Then I'm going to make this my lifestyle, because the pendulum always shifts back and forth. And when people feel like it's safe or more comfortable to do that, or worth it to do that, they probably will, especially the creative. I mean, it's this eventually, no matter what way I don't want to get too into certain details, but things eventually become merit-based, and you're eventually, if things get tighter and tighter, I would assume you have to be competitive. And if you have to choose between two people, if somebody's willing to be there with you during the long hours, I'm assuming that's who you need to take with you to carry a project into that pitch that we were talking about, if it's a big one.
Yeah. No, it's such a complicated thing, because then on the other side, having people in different markets makes sense, right? In some ways, because, we have clients in LA and we have clients in Detroit. Like all our Stellantis clients, for the most part, are up in Detroit, and they want to be in the office. So we've got people there. We've got Kenvue, and which is Johnson & Johnson, people would know it as Johnson & Johnson. They're all on the East Coast, so we've got people in New York. That helps there. And just with the different time zones, so I feel like and we all have people that are remote already. And I think, it's a hybrid thing, right? I don't think there's any, we have to all be in one place. It is what it is. We kind of have to be open-minded and find a way to make it work. And as I said, I think there's benefits to having people in different parts of the country, different time zones, in the back, being in the same spots as your clients. Yeah. So I don't know. I just, even the ability at times to get together and be in rooms when it matters, whether it's a pitch or a big creative think tank or whatever it is, you just need some human interaction.
This kind of comes back to something I was maybe prying at earlier, but I'm curious to know, with someone in your position, what the most challenging thing is on a weekly basis that you have to deal with. Because I assume you have so much management between these offices and all these personnel. Other people, especially the filmmakers on the other side, who are usually trying to attach themselves to a production company to then work with you on the projects, to then work with your clients. We're several ways removed. We're just curious. It'd be cool to know what challenges you have. And I know challenges is very general, so I don't know what maybe, if anything, is intimidating for you. Like what's that big thing, that hurdle that you have to get over in your position on a regular basis?
I mean, for me personally, it's just time management, right? Just being able to prioritize tasks. Like that's really the job, is just being able to identify what's the most important things that need to be done and try to stay on task. My only thing, if I do get in the weeds, like the way my creative process personally, like I love to workshop ideas. Like I can be a yes, no, take that one out, this is it type. I can do that, but I don't think anyone learns from that. And so my personal approach, if I am reviewing work with teams, I like to sit with them, do my homework, know what I'm talking. I don't like to just come in and blow shit up, right? It's just not my approach. I like to be informed. So I tend to do a lot of research on the brands we work on, understand the project, understand the task at hand. I'll come in, and if I am reviewing the work, I'll sit with the teams and really push them and challenge them and pressure test ideas, put stuff up. So I like to workshop ideas to get to where we need to be. And that doesn't happen quickly. So if I do end up in one of those situations, then shit unravels around because it pushes the whole day out, So I try to manage the time, but if you get stuck in and you kind of get laser focused on solving something, that can unravel an entire day's schedule.
Yeah, that sounds not unlike J.J. Abrams, the director. His company, Bad Robot, he says they have a motto. Yeah, he says they have a motto saying, "Let it suck until it doesn't." He says, "I try not to shut anybody down, whether they're like a junior creative or even the intern." He says, somebody has an idea, I try to just go, instead of saying that sucks, I just go, okay, how does that become good? How do we work that in? So it sounds like you don't blow it up right away and go, that's stupid, Gary. Don't bring that idea in here again.
I try to be, very patient. I love to build. I am as I say, I tend to do a lot of homework. I like research. I like to understand what we're dealing with like properly, so you can go toe to toe with clients and sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then I like to workshop ideas a lot if there's time, and then I can be very decisive. You know, I think once we have everyone on board and you've heard all the different points of view and you understand what you're dealing with, then you can be very quick to make decisions. But I don't. I just, you know, just to jump in and be like, that one sucks. Yes, that one's out. This one maybe go. Like no one learns from that, right? And I think if they understand why you're making decisions, it helps all the creatives around you.
I wish I had a specific scenario. It'd be cool to hear a challenge that you give someone in the moment where you're workshopping something, but I know that's too specific. I can't come up with anything on the spot. But if you have anything like a regular thing that you draw on to say, let's say I'm a junior creative and I said, well, we want to, I don't know, the Dodge Ram, we want to have it drive through a wall of cheese. Like, what would you, how do you, instead of saying that sucks, what's the way that you reply to the Dodge Ram driving through the wall of cheese for, I don't know. I was trying to think of something not good.
Well, I think the logical response would be that, like, well, why is it a block of cheese, right? So I feel like you need to, a lot of the time, you'll see, especially with younger creatives, there's just fun ideas for the sake of fun ideas. And you tend to leave behind the strategy or the objective. And I think sometimes you can, that's a great way to do. You can build on it, right? So it's like, okay, well, we're in the desert. There's a block of cheese. Why is there a block of cheese? What are we trying to show off? Off-road capability, you know, clearance, whatever it may be. And then just try and bring it back to build the idea into it, right? So there's a lot of that.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one I gave us.
Well, I think it's also, like we said earlier, there's so much work we do today that's executional, right? It's like, we open in dawn, it's beautiful out. I'm like, why is it dawn? Like, why is it beautiful out? Well, because, you know, it's beautiful. I'm like, okay, but why? Why does it have to be, you know, that kind of like, why are we making decisions we're making to just give it context and meaning and bring it back to more.
That's it right there. That's what I was looking for. It sounds like you hit them with the why. Why are we doing this? And that sounds like it would drive it in a good direction.
Yeah. Hey, if we're making music videos or indie films, we can do whatever we want, right? But at the end of the day, we've got someone's paying us to sell a service or a product, right? And we got to do that.
With what you can share, of course, is there anything that you're working on right now that you've kind of got on the horizon that might be a little different?
We do. So Stagwell's a holding company that both Donor and Wolfgang belong to. And within Stagwell, they're kind of the new holding company, right? The new kid on the block, so to speak. And they've been acquiring agencies quickly over the last 7 or 8 years. And they have now 70 plus agencies within the organization at large. And
wow,
what we've done, and this was super smart, and really one of the reasons I was excited to join Donor, was they've broken the agency, the 70 plus agencies, into almost like micro networks, you know, within the Stagwell stable, right? So if you imagine we take 5 or 6 complementary companies and you put them together in our little micro network is called the Donor Partners Network. And within that, there's a bunch of complementary companies. So don't think of them all as creative shops that do exactly the same thing. You've got shops in there that do slightly different things, right? We've got a company that does research, data analytics, and at the best at that. And we have a company that does amazing PR, and we have media, and we have an agency that does more influencer marketing, and we have retail, and we have brand marketing. And all these agencies, as the Donor Partners Network, are complementary and together can do a ton of stuff, go to toe-to-toe with any big shop, right? Big holding company. So when you say what I'm excited about, this group, and it's been very purposely between David and Mark Penn, the chairman and CEO of Stagwell, and David is the CEO of Donor. It's been structured in a way, as I say, everyone's complementary. So there's no one, we're not stepping on each other's toes. Everyone can play nicely and we can build. And the idea is to keep building that. I think we're all eyeing out, are there other companies that we could acquire, add on to this to just kind of round out our offering and strengthen our offering. So that's something that I'm super excited about. Obviously, I work closely with David, and we're trying to figure out like what do we need to really make this bulletproof as an offering. And there are holes, right? There's things that we
Yeah,
obviously...
kind of.
there's
It
still-
sounds like winning teams batching together to make better winning teams.
Yeah, totally. And you can pitch together, you can pull people in on certain projects if you need certain expertise. So that's something that I personally am very excited about, and we are actively working on that.
Cool. Do you guys ever think about branching into a different tier, like I don't know, film marketing or something? Do you ever explore that, or do you just try to get even better with the lanes that you're already in?
Yeah, it comes up in conversation a lot, and I think as the industry evolves, it's all entertainment at the end of the day, right? I think you've got, at this point, it's kind of a mess, right? You've got the Deloittes and the Accentures of the world who really, back in 2016 when we started Wolfgang, part of the reason to start it was we just watched how the consulting world was buying up creativity, essentially at the time. Like, they were literally just buying up creative shops left, right, and center. And I was like, hang on, well, not me, all of us. We were like, hang on, does this make sense? You're going to have all these right-brained, creatively driven companies owned and being run by analytically based companies. I'm like, that scared the shit out of us. We're like, this doesn't feel right in the long run. But, they've adapted, and obviously they've acquired lots of creative shops, the consultancies, and they're now doing a lot of big creative work, right? And then you got creative shops who have taken on more production work and are building out very robust production capabilities within the agencies. You're seeing this now everywhere, right? Because it's kind of the next part of the creative process. And at the same time, you've got production companies that are going upstream and just hiring agency creatives, and now we can do agency creative stuff, right? And hire a couple of planners, and now we've got an agency offering, right? So you got that. And then to add another layer to it, I feel like there's this discussion about medium and long form content. And you got now studios, entertainment companies.
Can you clarify? I'd love to hear what long form content is like. What type of long form content are you?
Well, I'm talking like documentaries and even sort of films and episodic stuff, getting into TV shows, and you're seeing more and more of that type of stuff happening, right? Where some of the agencies have these kind of arms, divisions of them, even looking to acquire some of those companies in certain instances. I feel like a good example of going the other way would be, and you saw with the Dunkin' Donuts stuff this year with what Ben Affleck's doing with Artist Equity, right? Like, they literally have an agency now built into their offering, and they're doing all the Dunkin' Donuts stuff, and I'm sure they'll be doing more work in the future, right? That's kind of going the other way, doing with Hollywood entertainment getting into the advertising space. I'm sure, Ryan Reynolds, another example, right? You're seeing that happening. So I was
going to say, Ryan Reynolds seems to be kind of the tip of the spear, at least as far as what people are aware of for a celebrity getting into that.
Yeah. So, I don't know where this all goes eventually, but it feels like entertainment, like we're not just making TV ads anymore. We're not just making websites or print ads, right? Now it's just, we're all competing for eyeballs. We're competing for your valuable time as a consumer. And what does that look like? Is it short form? Is it long form? Is it influencers? Is it medium format, long format? Like, you even got brands, right? Look at Louis Vuitton. Like, it's like this whole thing is, it's becoming just, it's entertainment, it's content, right? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where it all goes, but it's we're all competing for the same dollar and the same eyeballs.
Well, it's nice to hear it from you, so that other people don't think they're crazy saying they don't know where it all goes either.
Well, it's safe to say we're all going to have jobs for the foreseeable future, because like if everyone's making stuff, I feel like everyone listening on this is
right.
There's going to be work out there.
I don't know how much you're able to work with the filmmakers these days, or how much time you spend around them, or the directors or the production companies when it comes to your live action spots that you're filming. But a question that a lot of people would be curious to know is, if anything, what's something that you would like to see more of among the filmmaker crowd who wants to work with you, or maybe something you'd like to see less of, particularly, if anything? I know that's a bit of a curveball question, but again, people might want to know, are there bad habits that have developed that they need to get rid of? Are there good things that are starting to happen that they should lean into from your perspective, or just even if it's just a personal preference. If you're just like, hey, there's a director who wears ties and we think that's great on these jobs. Anything at all.
To me, 10, 15 years ago plus, whenever, there was definitely this, not a divide, but, production companies and agencies didn't collaborate as much, right? It was definitely like you hand over the job. Now the director's in charge of the creative. You kind of off in Video Village eating Twizzlers and hanging out with your clients, and you lost a certain control. There was more of a divide between agencies and production in the process. We came up with the work, sold it through, you handed it over to the production company. Once you awarded it, it was kind of in the hands of the production company and the director, right? And it wasn't particularly collaborative back then. It was kind of like, no, you're in Video Village eating Twizzlers with your clients, and we're over here making the work, right? And so you kind of lost control of the project, which is scary, right, for the creatives and for the clients. You're making, you're communicating through a first AD and clients losing their mind, and I'm trying to keep them calm. And it was a tough process for us to be in. And then you had, some big personalities, and we all know it was a different time, right? And I feel like that's not the case any longer. I think all of us have realized that to make stuff today, we have to be collaborative, all of us. And I love where it is now, where you get on set, and even in pre-pro calls and throughout the process, it's much more collaborative. It feels to me like the production companies, the filmmakers, their teams understand the kind of gauntlet we've gone through just to get to be on set together. So I think there's a little more of an understanding that we've been put through a lot typically to get here, and we know you've been through a lot, like the triple bids and all the stuff we've talked about. Like, there's a lot of work that's gone into it. Yeah. And I think there's a little more of this mutual respect, and we can make stuff together and maybe keep the clients a little closer even and work through the problems. So I feel like that to me has been a huge shift in the industry over the last 10 years or so. And I think maybe we're not, and I don't mean this in a bad way, maybe we're not as precious. We're all trying to make the best work we can, and it's not on one of us to get there. So I like that it's become more collaborative. That's something that I personally am very happy about. One gripe I have, and this is an easy fix, and I don't know why it exists, but when you go to a production company website, there's this tendency to have, I'm looking at a specific director, and there's 3 pieces of work up. And like, those might not be the 3 pieces that help me sell you or get an idea of what you're capable of. And for some reason, all the big companies in particular, it's just like, no, these are the 3 pieces you get to see. I'm like, well, I need more to sell you to our team and our clients. But for some reason, it's almost like I've now got to go and spend half an hour Googling you to find if you have your own site, which typically is not updated. And I'm trying to now I'm spending my time trying to sell you, instead of just when I click on your link, good. There's a nice body of work. I'm like, oh shit, okay, I can see you can do scale, you can do comedy, you did this, like I can sell you. So that's, I don't know if everyone's like that, but it's definitely something that over the years has blown my mind. I'm like, you're making it hard for us to understand what you can do, and then you're making it hard for us to sell you. You definitely get to that level, right? We work with certain DPs who, you've known for a long time, and they literally don't update. Some of these guys who just, been around a long time and work on reputation. Like, I go on their sites every now and then just to see it. It's like, hasn't been updated since 2008 or 2012. And you're like, hey, if you get there, man, that's a good place to be.
Yeah. Roger Deakins' last movie, No Country for Old Men, 2007, on his website. Well, Colin, is there anything that I didn't get to maybe that you'd like to put out there or to share? But you don't have to have anything, but if you did, if there was anything you wanted to share today that I maybe didn't ask you about, I'd love to take a few minutes to hear that.
Yeah, just one thing that, and I've been working on this kind of op-ed piece that I haven't quite completed, but there's something that I feel, just for all of us, it's just the creative process that I think is worth sharing. And it's this kind of idea of just remembering to stop and smell the roses. And what I mean by that for us is, I think just acknowledging the fact that what we do is really hard. Like, it's hard to be a creative today. And I don't think we talk about it enough. I think we kind of all struggle in our own way. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of failure. And what I mean by that is you fall in love with an idea and the client kills it, or the agency doesn't see your treatment the way you see it. There's a lot of, and it's all subjective, right? Which I think is, at its core, creativity is subjective. It's not a science. And that's what makes what we do so beautiful, and at the same time so incredibly frustrating. Is that I think my idea is the best idea in the world, and you don't. And if it's your client or the agency or whoever, somebody that's ultimately making a decision around you, that's really hard, right? So there's a lot of failure, there's a lot of rejection, and I don't think we stop and celebrate or acknowledge the wins enough as an industry. And when I mean the wins, I don't even mean, like, I'm not talking about Cannes Lions and whatever. I'm just talking about the little wins, like you got selected for the job, or the metrics are there, and your piece of social content, help the client or change brand sentiment or whatever it may be. There's all these little wins, and then of course they're the big ones, right? Like something goes viral or it wins big, or it's record sales for a client. Whatever it may be, there's all these wins around us, and I feel like the big ones, the small ones, the medium-sized ones, we just kind of keep trudging on, and we don't just be like, two things. One, it is really hard to do what we all do, and that's okay. And I think as long as we acknowledge it and be like, hey, okay. And then two, like, just remember to just stop and pat yourself on the back, like have a moment, like just enjoy the wins, because there's more failures than wins out there, and that's just for all of us. It doesn't matter how successful you are. I think to get to where you are, and then even when you're there, like, it's full of failure. That's just kind of the nature of being creative. We'll go into a pitch for 3 or 4 months, and you've got this giant deck, and you're so happy, and you fly to wherever you're going, and you put on the show, and you think you nailed it, and you fly home, and you get the call, and you didn't win it, right? And you can't win them all. Or you've done this piece of work, and you're sitting at the award shows in your suit and tie, and you're like, next category, and you're getting ready to go up, and you get overlooked, and it happens, right? It's the nature of what we do.
Do you have any memories that you're willing to share of maybe when you and your team won a pitch or lost one? Did you guys go anywhere? Go sit at a restaurant or sit on the beach and just stare outward for a good or bad reason?
I mean, it happens all the time, man.
Oh yeah.
There's one. I mean, I can't give you specifics on it, but we pitched Super Bowl a few years ago for a big client that has a history of doing very well in the Super Bowl. And, it's a shootout. They invite all these top agencies to pitch in. And it's a lengthy process, months, and, 20, 30 plus agencies all pitching ideas over a long period of time. And it's time consuming. And we go through the process. They narrow the ideas down. And this is tough to win like this, right? And these kind of shootouts, they're called. And we hear back from the
clients. That's
clients.
A lot of unpaid work too, as you're gearing up for a job.
Huge. I mean, agencies are investing huge amounts of money in the Super, because, if you win Super Bowl, or if you're in the Super Bowl, it's great. PR, you're building your own brand, whatever. And anyway, we go through this process. We get a call back from the client that 2 of the 3 ideas left on the table are ours. So we have 2 out of 3. Not bad, right? Out of hundreds of ideas they've seen over the last few months. They put them into testing, do their thing. The one idea that we're most excited about is celebrity-based. Big celebrity, whatever. Anyway, they go through testing. We get the call a couple of weeks later. Congratulations. You've won our Super Bowl pitch, you're in, and off we go. So we're excited, but this is all contingent on us. They've got the money, they're willing to pay, everything's good. So I head off and meet with the agent in person here in LA. Great lunch. They're excited. Off they go to, their client's going to love this. No brainer, right? They head off, share it with their client. clients on board, money's good, job's good, everything's good. It's good. Clients like, it's a go. We're in big production
So
budget.
we're close now. We're real close.
Now the celebrity's given us the green light. The agent's on board. The money's good. Everyone's good. Clients on board. Everyone's good. And we're now at this point popping champagne. We're going to be shooting this monster thing that will absolutely win the Super Bowl, hands down. There's nothing that can beat this. Having done the Super Bowl for as many, like 15 years, and having won the Super Bowl shootouts, I'm like, this spot is going to win the Super Bowl, no doubt, right? So we're popping champagne on this Friday evening. We get the word. Monday morning, I get the call being like, we're out, can't do it. And it just never happened. We just literally, it like fell through our fingers, man. We had it, and just fell through for whatever reason on their side. It just disappeared. And that was one of the biggest losses. You know, it would have put us on the map creatively. It would have been huge. And it just slipped right through our fingers.
Oh, man. Is it taboo to recycle ideas? Or what did it have to be then in that way with that team? You know, did it have to happen then the way you guys pitched it? It can't be brought back.
It was written specifically for somebody. So
yeah,
it's gone.
I appreciate you sharing that with us. That's really because so many people, whether it's maybe a local job in Austin or Nashville or something, I mean, people have felt, it's nice to hear that you guys were popping champagne because you were right there, and then to have that taken away, and that you come back and you keep going.
Yeah, it was probably sparkling wine because it was early days of Wolfgang, so it was probably sparkling wine, not champagne.
Sparkling water.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, man. Well, Colin, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us? I also want to put this out there, not to sound arrogant, but we do this whenever we want. This isn't like a podcasty sponsored. We don't do it for the show. We do it when we're excited to talk to somebody. So we do this whenever we want. So if there's ever a scenario where you're like, you know what, I think I do have more things to say, or I have somebody who I think this needs to get put out in a certain way, the door is wide open to do this again anytime. It doesn't have to all be today in this way.
Yeah, man. There's been a lot of talk just about young creatives coming in and you know, post-pandemic in the industry, just how do we get in and what do we do? And I feel like, especially on the agency side, you know, there's this restlessness that's existed for years in the creative field, you know, and I think we have this tendency to chase titles, and there's this grass is greener syndrome that exists in advertising where, you know, we so focus on the titles and the awards and climbing quickly to get to like the ACD title and the creative director title and like, you know, but there's a ceiling of this stuff. And I guess my advice would just be like, be patient, you know, find a shop or a production company, whatever it is that can support you and allow you to grow, and just be patient, like put in the work. Don't worry too much about, I mean, obviously we need to get paid and, you know, put food on the table and do whatever we need to do. But like just chasing the shiny objects is such a dangerous thing in our industry. And you can do it if you just, you know, you can climb quickly and make some bad calls and go to the wrong shops just to get bigger titles. But I feel like there's something to be said for finding a home, an agency with good people, good mentors, where you can be patient, put in the work, like hone your craft, learn the ins and outs of filmmaking or you know, whatever, insights, thinking, problem solving, and then just grow. You know, it's not a sprint. Like what we do is not a sprint. This is a marathon of a career, and it can be beautiful and exciting and have all these twists and turns. And creativity, I feel like it transcends borders. You know, I've worked in all different markets around the world, and I think if you're smart about your trajectory and your path, it can be beautiful, man. It can take you to all these different countries and different agencies and specialties and whatever, and you can get to shoot in different parts of the world and meet all these cool people. But I just feel like, just be patient. It's worth it. It's worth putting in the grind and just taking your time, man.
I really appreciate you taking all this time out of your day to talk to me, to talk to the filmmaker community when there's so much that we want to know about your side of the table, to get that insight, and I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I've loved chatting to you, and let's do it again, man. It'll be good.